Kremlin is the Soviet tech tree's tier 10 battleship in World of Warships. And look, I know I did Petro's leg mod last time, so I promise that our next unique upgrade review will not be for a Soviet ship. Let me know in the comments which leg mod you want me to make a video on next. Kremlin is a really durable battleship, and she's got 9 457mm guns that really pack a punch and excel in those close to mid-range engagements where World of Warships is really, really fun. Like most Soviet battleships, she has a very small superstructure, which results in a lot of bounced or shattered shells that come at her from enemy cruisers or destroyers. Her secondaries are basically unexceptional, but she actually has decent anti-aircraft guns, provided they haven't all been scraped off by fireballs fired from the red team's Conqueror. Early in the game, Kremlin likes to move towards the fight, slowly but with intention, popping off shots at targets of opportunity and trying to position herself for a mid or late game push. Later, when that opportunity comes and the enemy's line is broken, the ship pushes through like an unstoppable iron bear, laughing at lesser ships and destroying anything that has a citadel. While the armor protecting her delicious and nougaty center is a thick 430mm, the ship does not have a turtleback or multiple armor plates with complex angles that make her a true fortress. That means she's vulnerable to being citadeled by heavy fire when showing too much side. She's best played bow in. You'll also want to be aware of your allies' positions and use them to ward off attacks on your flanks when possible, or at least use them as an early warning system for approaching enemies. All in all, there's a lot to like about Kremlin. Plus, who wouldn't want to drive around in a ship that you can call the Crumble Door? Kremlin's leg mod is called the Automated Main Battery Loading Mechanism, and it buffs her reload by an impressive 18%, and that's good. And all it costs you is 12% of your main battery range, which you don't really want to use anyway, because every fiber of this imaginary paper ship's being is screaming viscerally at you to get closer, much, much closer than 20 kilometers. So far, so good. However, every time you install a leg mod, you have to remove a standard upgrade. And personally, I run main battery mod 3 on Kremlin, which is recommended in the WoW's builds document. I'll put a link in this video's description. So this is what you get, and this is what you give up. When you demount main battery mod 3, you lose its 12% reload buff and its 13% turret rotation nerf. The net result of demounting MBM3 and mounting the leg mod is a 6% reload buff and a 12% range nerf. And you no longer suffer the 13% turret rotation speed reduction. All three of those changes actually work together really nicely, because when your range is shorter, that means your targets are closer. So losing that turret rotation nerf is actually quite excellent, because at shorter distances, you need more degrees of rotation per second in order to track an enemy ship with your guns than if they were farther away and moving at the same speed. Since Kremlin prefers to fight up close due to her tankiness and unique dispersion pattern anyway, the realized cost of that 12% range nerf is very minimal. I won't say I never wished that I had more range when playing leg mod Kremlin. There were multiple occasions, particularly in early stages of the game, when I found myself kind of wishing I had an extra 1 or 2 kilometers of range. However, this isn't where Kremlin excels, and so the leg mod is about min-maxing the ship. That is, minimizing her weaknesses and maximizing her strengths. By this logic, the unique upgrade seems like a must-buy that would boost Kremlin's best features with only a minor negative impact to her main battery range. So, is the video over? I mean, you should just go buy the leg mod right now, right? Well, not exactly, and it's because unique upgrades are expensive. Is this really where you want to go and spend 19,200 research points? Let's take a look at some of the data, and I'll describe some of my experiences as well. To try to understand the difference in performance between the two modifications, I played 21 battles in the ship. I kept track of a ton of different performance measures, and in the end, I decided that most of them were frankly totally useless, but there were a couple that I felt accurately reflected my performance gains when using the leg mod. Shots per minute, hit percentage, and damage per minute, as well as damage per hit. I kind of consider those basically one metric. I'll show both of them for you a little bit later. Since Kremlin's leg mod is all about reloading and pointing your guns quickly, the most trustworthy stat that I captured is shots or salvos per minute. I mean, that just makes sense. In other words, that I get to shoot my guns more often. Also, I can make an argument for hit percentage and maybe even damage per hit, because the shorter range may have resulted in easier to hit shots on enemy ships, or maybe even better opportunities for things like citadels. Things like win rate or average damage are measured on a per game basis, and with only 21 games, I think we'd need to have more data for those values to really be trustworthy over the long haul. But in those 21 games, I fired a total of 2,326 shots from the main battery, and and played, 4 hours worth of games or whatever. And so that starts to make me feel like, though a reasonably small sample size, there might be some reasonable metrics that come out of those 2,300, 2,400 shots. One quick note about survivability. I did find that my survival times for both mods to be very, very similar. With main battery mod 3, I did live for 11 minutes, 58 seconds on average. And with the unique upgrade, I lived for 11 minutes and 39 seconds on average. Again, only across 21 games. So I don't know that that's necessarily conclusive. I do think it was interesting that the shorter range of the leg mod led to a survival time of 21 seconds less, but I just don't think I played enough games to really prove that out. Wargaming, you've got data on hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of Kremlin battles. You want to answer this one for us in the comments, please? Oh man, feel free to ping me on the CC Discord, Wargaming Data Nerds. I would love to hear from you. With main battery mod 3, I fired approximately 9.29 shots per minute compared with 9.47 shots per minute when I used the unique upgrade. And that started to seem like a number that might matter. If we assume that the differences in survival time for both modifications are similar over the long haul, during a hypothetical 12-minute battle, a leg mod Kremlin would get to fire 113.64 shots, and a main battery mod 3 Kremlin would get to fire 111.48 shots, a difference of just 2.16 shells. Put another way, I'd fire 1.94% more shells given my 6% DPM increase. And that's not nothing, but it's probably not a drastic change either. If I took a look at my hit percentage, things start to look a little bit more interesting. While neither automated main battery loading mechanism nor main battery mod 3 have anything to do with accuracy, I did see a reasonably big jump in hit percentage when I ran the leg mod. Perhaps it was because I was positioning the ship more aggressively, or maybe I simply had less opportunity to take hopeful long-range shots that were unlikely to hit anyway. With main battery mod 3, I landed 37.8% of my hits, and with the unique upgrade, I scored 41.8% of my hits. Given the average number of shots in our hypothetical 12-minute battle from earlier, a main battery mod 3 Kremlin would score 42.14 hits, and a leg mod Kremlin would land 47.50 shells. Now we're talking about a distance, or a gap, I should say, of like more than 5 hits difference per battle. And that could actually matter, but it kind of depends on how much damage per shell we expect to get from a successful hit fired from a Kremlin. I landed 924 hits in the study across both configurations and scored a total of 2,336,758 damage. With main battery mod 3, I averaged 2,396 damage per hit. With the leg mod, I averaged 2,662 damage per hit. Now, it's not immediately clear what the reason for this difference is. I suspect playing a little bit closer actually did have something to do with it. It could have just been that I had favorable targets, or maybe my enemies made poor decisions in those battles. More data would probably be more conclusive, but in the end, I managed 8,412 damage per minute without the UU, and 10,551 damage per minute with the UU. That takes into account not only hitting more often, but also potentially doing more damage per hit. That's a difference of over 20%, which feels maybe a little bit high compared to how I perceived those battles when I was playing them. But it did seem that overall I was getting a little bit more damage with the unique upgrade. Given how many variables exist in each game of World of Warships, however, I want to stress that we would probably need a lot more data to really prove this all out. But what does it all mean? I mean, overall, this study was somewhat inconclusive, although it does suggest that there was at least a minor to medium performance increase when using the unique upgrade. And frankly, just having the opportunity to take some time out of my busy World of Warships schedule, if you will, and playing some Kremlin for just a dedicated block of time taught me a lot about the ship, as well as about the way I've built the ship. I learned that by the numbers and through my own observations, yes, the leg mod might have a bit of an improvement, but it doesn't really change the ship's character. It just makes the Kremlin more Kremlin-y. And that's a great thing for a ship that's basically locked in beast mode all of the time. I'm a very average player, and I rarely score big damage, but in these 21 battles that I played for this video, I broke 200,000 damage 3 times, and I broke 100,000 damage 9 times. Breaking 200,000 damage for me is a big deal. Maybe for some of you guys, that's something you can just crack out in an afternoon. That's not common for me. That was special. And to do it 3 times in just 21 battles really speaks to how powerful Kremlin is and perhaps how compatible it is with my playstyle. I also learned that the leg mod's malices are basically not really malices. And that means that they just don't cost you much or anything in terms of performance. It turns out Kremlin is just a really, really strong ship, even without the leg mod. She's well armored, she doesn't burn, and she hits like a truck. So in conclusion, would I rush out and buy Kremlin's leg mod? I mean, I don't know if I'd rush. Personally, I didn't go buy it because, well, there are a lot of leg mods to choose from, and all of them cost 19,200 research points. It's true that the leg mod does make Kremlin even better than it already is. So for you hopeless, Citadel addicted Kremlin fiends, please go buy this mod. It's a dope mod. Go get it. It puts more Kremlin in your Kremlin, and if you're a Kremlin fiend, it's for you. For the rest of us, you might get a little bit more flavor by spending your RPs on something that's a bit more unique. So do I recommend buying the mod? Yes, I do, but maybe not necessarily first. What do you guys think? Do you already have this upgrade? Are you gonna go get it? Which unique upgrade do you think I should look into next? Hit me up in the comments and I will try to answer as many of your posts as I possibly can. I really appreciate you guys watching this video. Thank you so much for that. Be cool, be nice, and I hope to see you in our next video, battle, or over on Twitch, where we do this live 3 times a week. Take care, captains. We'll see you next time.